Okay. I would just like to start by saying that I certainly am not opposed to any of these other workflows. That's, you know, in my opinion, do what works best for you. That's the whole thing. And uh, where I'm coming from is that for such a long time, it's been known, even to me, when I was in Carrera, we just knew that if you want to animate, you don't want to pick DAZ Studio. DAZ Studio is unfriendly to animating. And Linde came out with that classic long curly hair with D-Force for Genesis 8 females, and that got my attention. I had to try it. I bought it right away. I tried it out on a figure, and I was amazed at what I saw. And at the same time, I was also very pleased with iRay, even though just with the default settings, with 5,000 max samples and everything like that, I still wasn't sure how to use that for animation. So I got into Octane Render, and even that, it can take some time until you get to know how it works. And then with Wendy Loves Cats, um, her and I are good friends, and so she taught me how to speed up my workflow in Octane Render in a big way. And next thing you know, I'm putting out animations left and right like crazy with Octane Render. And so then uh, you needed internet access just to log in to just so that Octane could phone home. When you first launch Daz. Aside from that, it didn't need the internet, but I couldn't have internet for a while, and so I couldn't use my Octane. And I'm like, well, it's not going to work for me. So uh, back to Wendy, and she taught me how to speed up my workflow with iRay, and it's been an iRay day ever since. I love it. I absolutely love it. So anyway, I just wanted to say I'm not against any of these other workflows. I'm not. I have friends that use Houdini, and I have friends that use Blender, and friends that use Maya, Modo, uh, all kinds of fun tools. iClone is another big one. The thing is I am admittedly, admittedly, a Daz 3D-aholic. I love shopping at Daz 3D mainly because I love what these published artists are constantly pouring out there. They just keep getting better and better and better. The shaders that come with these things just keep improving. And it's like now I can load in a scene and I don't have to add any lights. It's like oof, it's awesome. It's self-illuminated, And so anyway, I really enjoy staying in Daz Studio. I've never been all that happy if I have to export this and try and figure out a workflow for this and this and this. I don't mind figuring out workflows. I really don't. In fact, I had to figure out a workflow in order to come up with these dials in Daz Studio for the Daz figures was a brainstorm. I was on a limb and I wanted to correct a couple of my aniBlocks that I had. I wanted to correct some of the arm motions so they weren't poking through the torso. So I created an arm twist dial, and that was the very beginning. Next thing you know, I started suiting these things up with all kinds of different dials for clenching the guns and shooting the guns. And I have one that can just for Genesis 8 female. I have one that can it'll actually widen the stance of the feet and lower the hip at the same so as you dial it, you can select how wide you want the stance of the feet, and it'll lower the hip at the same rate so that the feet stay on the ground. And I thought that it would work for animating that, and I haven't found a means where it works for animating that because it makes the feet slide, of course. But I'm, I'm sure I'll come up with one where come to a stop and then slide the feet up, whatever. But it was inspired by a pose that I saw on a promo art for an Eon Soul pose collection, and it was for their Metro clothing came out with the baggy pants, and had this really cool pose. And so I was inspired. I wanted to add that to several of the animations that I was using, just that wider stance with the hip a little lower to the ground. And so I made that. Anyway, I have all these cool dials. Now, let me share my screen here. Now, this is using LimbStick to keep one of the hands on the rung, one of the hands and the opposing foot on the rungs of the ladder, and then the opposite hand and its opposing foot are following the knots of the rope up the ladder. And so that's pretty cool. And then here I just added a cylinder and animated that along the path of the rope, and I did it in a way where it's not just constantly moving. I wanted it to go like, stop before it gets to a knot and then go around follow the knot and then stop and hold on to the knot, and then limb stick the hand to that. And now here is a side by side with um, the original motion capture on the right and my edited motion capture on the left. Okay. And um, I just wanted to show here how this one has no changes. And this one only has these changes. I get back in there. There we go. And it looks like a lot, but I mean, that is so easy to work with right there. If you need to isolate which pose is doing what and when, it's easy to just open up the hierarchy of the timeline and, work with it. It's so fantastic. That's not a whole lot of keyframes. I get this stuff done in minutes. Okay, and then the rest of the time is spent simulating the hair and setting up the render, and then shooting the render. And so it all works really great. And uh, just wanted to clear some things up because I'm not against any other workflows, but I do have to say that this workflow, working in Daz Studio, really rocks. Um, Mostly for me, from coming up with using those dials, because those dials make it so that I can change anything that I don't like about the motion capture, or maybe not don't like, but anything about the motion capture that I want to bring closer to how I want Rosie to behave with it. All right. Peace out and have a good day. Have a good one. Bye.